we're slowing down a little bit. Great. Just about 100 people. So we'll get started in just a minute. As you can see, everyone, this is just a standard Zoom meeting and not a Zoom webinar. I do want everyone to look around, see their colleagues, say hello, and there'll be some Q&A time at the end. I do think during both the video that we start this with and during the couple presentations, staying muted would be helpful, just so we reduce any echoes or whatnot. But do feel free to use the chat, and then we will have some time for Q&A later. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're up at 100 some people, and I know there are even many more in this community, so I really appreciate everyone coming. For those I haven't met, I am Jason Maslanka. I am the Chief Technology Officer of the university in my about 8th week, 2nd month, just gotten started. And wow, the doorbell is something. I should, oh, someone told me I can turn it off. Yeah, I should know these things. In my 2nd month in this position, and it is absolutely lovely to be with you today. Cynthia Herrera-Lindstrom, our Chief Information Officer for the university, was not available at the scheduled time, and I didn't want to move a whole thing that we had put together for a large group. So she did put together a video this weekend that speaks to a few of the things that ACCC is doing, some mission, vision, values pieces, and some updates on big projects. So I'm going to play that video. It's only a few, 4 minutes long. And then after that, we'll dig right into the rest of the agenda. So let me get that fired up.
Hello, and welcome to this town hall meeting. I am Cynthia Herrera-Lindstrom, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Chief Information Officer at UIC. As the university looks ahead over the next 5 years to provide fresh thinking for how we, as an institution, can leverage our strengths to shape the future, we at ACCC began redefining our vision, mission, and value statements to shape how we will operate and to ensure alignment with UIC's new strategic priorities. This past spring, I shared ACCC's vision, mission, values, and principles with each of the deans, and today I'd like to share them with you. Our vision is to enable excellence through information technology. Our mission is to be a trusted strategic partner for innovative and transformative information technology solutions. Our values are collaboration, excellence, innovation, integrity, people, and transparency. Our principles are to be a good steward of resources, be a people-first place to work, commit to continuous improvement, deliver customer-centered service, embrace an innovative culture of ideas and innovation, and be intentional in our partnerships. Our principles are what I consider to be the key to our success going forward. While I feel that these have always been our principles, they are now documented and formalized, and we will now intentionally practice them. One of the most important principles for me is to be intentional in our partnerships. IT partnerships across the university, and the system for that matter, are critical to UIC's success and the achievement of our strategic priorities. Collaboration across our IT community will continue through the IT Leadership Council, the IT Leadership Council committees, ILECT, and the IT Community Conference. But we will also be looking for opportunities to expand how we work across the university and partner with our college IT groups. We will be looking for ways to simplify how we operate, improve the services we deliver, implement new ideas, rationalize the technologies we use, and reduce technology costs. And we need your help on the best ways to accomplish them. Now, let me share some updates on the strategic plans that we have been working on. Data center. So we completed phase 1 and phase 2 of this engagement. The phase 3, we're waiting for Urbana to do their data center strategic plan because we feel that the solutions that we will need are going to be common to both of us, and they will be easier to accomplish if we join forces. The network, this initiative began in January, and we have a preliminary draft of their report, which we will share once it becomes final. The research one, this started at the end of 2019, and we completed it early in 2020. It was led by Farzad Mashayek, who's a faculty member and also head of mechanical and industrial engineering. Also Andy Boyd, who's a faculty member and also has appointments in the Vice Chancellor for Research Office and in UI Health. Our own Himanshu Sharma, director of the ACER Group, and myself. The report was submitted to the Vice Chancellor for Innovation and the Vice Chancellor for Research. The disaster recovery, this one just started in June, and the plan should be completed by the end of the year. This plan will include all systems and applications managed by ACCC. We have also worked on doing project prioritization. We're basing that on criteria such as impact to the university, return on investment, and urgency. We're using industry best practices. Of course, it will be vetted by the IT Leadership Council and its committees. The prioritization is meant to determine what ACCC works on and what we don't. And the project dashboard that we're creating will show the priority and status of the projects. And now I would like to turn over this town hall meeting to Jason Maslanka. He's our new UIC Chief Technology Officer. He's just started in June, and he will share his vision with you. Jason, all yours.
That was a pretty sleek transition. I hope you're all very impressed. Sorry it took me so long to turn off the chime, but I didn't know where that was. If you look back at the agenda that I sent out, the first thing on our agenda after the update from Cynthia was an update from Elizabeth Romero, my peer and colleague in ACCC, who leads our Learning Technology Solutions Group. And Elizabeth has some updates on her area and what the future looks like there. Elizabeth?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks everybody for attending today. I know there's competing agendas. All the university is going back to work, so a lot of us are in multiple meetings. So I am one of those in another meeting. So I want to share this very quickly with you and be open. I'm always open. If you have any question and want to follow up with me later on, I'm open to that. So let me start by sharing my screen and very quickly just go through a series of slides here to show you what have we been doing during this past pandemic crisis and where we right now and where are we going in the near future. So one thing that I wanted to make sure the community knew about, we spent a lot of time, not only myself, but also the team, project management group and others at the in ACCC, working on being able to bring data, actionable data that we could use to improve the services we provide. So with the pandemic, we had to onboard a couple of services like Zoom, for example, and we wanted to have an opportunity to look at the adoption on some of the other data. So if you go to our website, accc.uic.edu, then reports, you will be able to see these reports. They run live. Everyone with UIC NetID and password can access these reports. So those are very important. Those are daily updated and it's automated, these reports from Blackboard. Specifically looking at Blackboard because the provost was very concerned about our ability to pivot back into online right after the pandemic hit. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure that you also knew that we updated the website. So what we used to have for the summer as online learning was quickly updated at the end of the summer to now represent what we can do for fall 2020. We continue to include some of those components of what the faculty and the students are able to use. Right now, just so you know, we also have the program that allows faculty to submit requests for technology and students to submit requests for laptop and hotspots if they need to. So that's all that information is in this website. Is the first tab on our website in ACCC. Feel free to explore there. There's 2 new elements added there, which is the working remotely and the ACCC service operations. So you can know when our services are and what services are not fully in operation. New technologies that we added, and again, this is something that had to be rapidly added to our tools of technology, our tools for teaching and learning, specifically because assessment became the biggest concern for our faculty right after we survey our faculty in the spring semester. This was one of the most challenging tasks that they had to move online. So proctoring and assessment, grading assessments was the 2 biggest concerns. We didn't have good technologies for this because in the past we didn't have a large footprint of online learning. So this is new for us. The teams are getting up to speed with this, but there's knowledge, there's information in the website, and there's a support mechanism for this as well. No new, but new features for VoiceThread is now fully accessible. So we can now have automated closed captioning running on VoiceThread. This is a technology that allows faculty and students to engage in video conversations asynchronously. It's a very cool technology. If you haven't been able to see it, I recommend you to check it out. And it's via Blackboard, but can be also used outside of Blackboard. And then the print from WIPA, that's we are going to be open for printing at the university in some spaces, specifically the library. The library, we will be closing a couple of stations. I think 4 or 5 stations will be closed because of the proximity to one another, but the rest of the WIPA print stations are fully operational, and there's this touch-free printing with WIPA now to allow for students to be able to print and without having to touch the device. At the bottom, I put here the other technologies that were quickly onboarded during the spring semester. Zoom, as you know, it's available through Blackboard as well. Lockdown browser and respondents monitor, which is the online proctoring technology that we added. And still functional is the accessibility file transformer from Blackboard. This is something that students and faculty can use to convert documents for accessible formats, including Braille. So that's there. Now, new to Blackboard, this is also something that I wanted to make sure everybody knew. Outside of login, we have Socrates, which is a chatbot that has some limited knowledge right now of some common questions, but it's growing in their ability to answer questions for our students and faculty. So that's one. And the second thing is the classroom photo roster. We have this ability to now add personal pronouns, preferred pronouns, and names and pronunciation names within Blackboard photo roster. This is an application that was developed here in UIC by Simon, who is our senior system administrator. So and this application is in use in many universities. So we're very proud of this application. And both of these new in Blackboard things we are actually pioneering with working with Unified, which is a company that works on artificial intelligence tools, and with Simon, and they have been working over the past 4 months to get these tools in the way they are right now. I think this is very important for our students in terms of use of access and also the diversity that we have, that we are very proud of. So that's there. And then the new piece that I wanted to mention to everyone here is that the LTS team is now going through a transformation and integration with the Center for Teaching Excellence, which is the new center that was just started operations this July 1st. The new executive director, Erin O'Leary, she started July 1st, and now she is going to be presenting tomorrow at the leadership retreat this idea that the Learning Technology Solutions team will be part of the Center for Teaching Excellence as we try to create this unique space for faculty and to be able to find everything they need for teaching, regardless if it is any modality, really face-to-face, blended, online, fully online, or in the classroom. So that's, I think that this change actually has been accelerated because of the pandemic, obviously. Now we have, during this past summer, we developed over 500 online courses to provide the students with the flexibility of being able to take classes from wherever they are. So blended courses, we have a number of them too, but fully online courses were announced. All courses that are more than 70 students in enrollment were technically forced to be online. So with the work that, with the help of about 100 TAs that we call course builders, we and the instructional designers in the LTS team, along with extended campus instructional designer and resources, we were able to have those courses almost ready. We're still putting final touches to many of the courses, but a good number of the courses are completed already right now. And that for the provost was an interesting opportunity to make better use of the resources. So we are supporting this initiative and also moving forward in terms of what we can do at the university to support teaching and learning. So this, my role will be changing slightly, and I will have dotted line to the CIO, our CIO Cynthia, from now. And as we are also in the process of, she's retiring and in the process of getting to the new CIO, so that change will happen in tandem with one another. So our full move is scheduled for the spring semester, so January 2021. But as we start moving things internally, I thought it was better if we kind of started talking about this new structure for the LTS. The Learning Technology Solutions team will move entirely. So we have responsibility for classrooms, learning environments, and the learning systems, plus the instructional design side and the faculty development piece. So I think there's new opportunities for us now that we move into this direction, and also new challenges that we have to face. And the last piece is that through this change, there's a new home. There will be a new home by spring 2021 of the LTS team. We don't know exactly how this is going to change in the future regarding how the website for ACCC is also changing. But for now, the one thing that I can tell you is that a link from the Teaching with Technology piece in the Center for Teaching Excellence goes back to our website in ACCC. And right now, this fall semester, faculty and students will be served in the same way that they were served before. And really, this change is completely transparent to the end user, to the faculty, to the students. It is more internal reallocation and readjustments of staffing and budgets, but it's transparent for the user, and it's our hope that it's actually going to be in benefit of the user in the near future, because everything that is related to teaching will be concentrated through the Center for Teaching Excellence website, including technology and the other aspects of teaching. So that's all I had to share today. I'm not sure if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can comment on, but that's this is the change. So we will partner very closely with Jason's team with the technology, because definitely there's no teaching without the infrastructure and the other solutions that Jason will be leading. There's just no way that we can do anything with that layer of technology. But definitely it's something that we are looking forward to continue working together.
So thank you, Elizabeth. I don't know how well it'll work to just open it up, but if anyone has a question, feel free to just share it in the chat or unmute. Elizabeth does have another meeting to go to related to teaching and learning, orienting, I believe, some folks. So
this is the new orientation for the TAs. So we are onboarding about 300 TAs, and in the new way that we do these things, these new TAs are actually going to be strong knowledge. Their strong knowledge of Blackboard and other tools is important for them.
I got a question. This is Jason. So a lot of the universities are using Canvas instead of Blackboard. Is there any transition plans to move to Canvas, or are we sticking with Blackboard? Are we going to do both? Maybe a Blackboard, Canvas?
Well, one thing that I can tell you is we're not going to have two LMSs at UIC for sure. That's not going to happen. Now, the University of Illinois in Springfield moved completely to Canvas this summer. They have such a small number of courses compared to us. It's so much easier to move. Now, the UIC has been, for the past year and a half, almost 2 years, evaluating LMS and why and how are we looking at the LMS. So the LMS Governance Board, which is a group that meets every third Thursday of the month for every month, define and decide that staying with Blackboard was for the next 5 years, which is a new contract that we are renewing at the end of next year.
Makes sense.
But that said, we are always looking and seeing what's happening around in terms of LMSs. So as you know, as we move into the new era of the teaching at UIC, primarily, we didn't have a big footprint on online. Now we do have much more. And now we know that we're never going to be back at not having as many online courses, as many faculty using online tools. So it might be another opportunity to revisit this now with the new Center for Teaching Excellence, do another type of research.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So my email, you know my email. I'm open to any question at any time. And I will give it back to you, Jason, for the meeting.
Great, thank you.
I apologize for having to leave early.
No, thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, everyone.
So as folks can see from there are certainly changes occurring in the central computing area, and the creation of my position and some of those changes are all a part of that. So what I wanted to do for the rest of our time together, and again, feel free to ask questions at the end or put them in the chat if you'd like, was to share some of the changes related to the areas in central computing that I have responsibility for. And so I have a functional org chart, for lack of a better term, that speaks to the areas, the directorships, and some of the functions of what the future will look like. I think many of you, some of you have seen this already, those internal to ACCC, but I think the rest of you will find that this is really speaks to a transitional org chart. This is not something that is going to be how we look in 10 years, but it is, I believe, what we need to look like for the next 1 to 2 years as we transition into a future state as the central computing provider for the university. So let me bring up that org chart. It's big and probably going to be hard to read at times. I apologize. But, great, everybody got it now? Yes, cool. So the first area you can see is our security and privacy area. That's led by Ed Zawacki today and tomorrow. I've said that strangely. It sounds like a problem for Ed. That is not what I meant. And that area is probably the area of least change. I think we have a lot of opportunities in the future to grow. And obviously data security and privacy are very important. But that function under Ed's leadership is relatively unchanged from today, and we will look to grow it in the future. One thing I should say about the colored squares, the reds are the director level positions. The rest are, the dark blue are relatively mature operations or functions. The lighter blue are those that are in change or in flux in some way, and there's a number of reasons for why. It just speaks to the change that's going on. There are also green rectangles later on in the org chart that speak to new functions. I will also note that nothing on this org chart is representative of a person outside of the red directorships. They are functions. In some cases, those functions have 8 people. In some cases, they have 1. In some cases, they have none. And they're handled by multiple people. So that's how this chart works. So the security and privacy area. Our next area we would all historically refer to as the networks group. We're expanding that a bit to consider it the full infrastructure and networks group. And this is really the group under the direction of Jolene Crehan, who is responsible for our hardware layer, as well as many other things, the networks, voice, so on and so forth, and you'll see there. Network engineering is our group of core network engineers. Paul Newman leads that group. And I keep saying today, making it sound like there's some change afoot for those positions. I do not mean that. Paul Newman leads that area. Our data center operations, led by Sydney Hood, is being separated from the NOC operation that you may be used to, and you'll see some of that a bit later, to really focus in on, as Cynthia mentioned, our data center strategy and the future of our data centers. We not only run data centers that serve this campus, but serve the system. And we have to move those operations forward significantly. And so Sydney and his team have done a wonderful job, but at some point in the near future, we're going to have to invest significant capital resource, which I'll talk about in a bit, to really improve those. We currently have 3 large data centers we're responsible for, and what does the future of that look like? The voice and mobile area, which is sort of a combination of our areas related to our phone system, the Centrex, the VoIP conversion, and our mobile cellular pagers, that sort of thing. That's all being put into one group where we'll determine what the future of that looks like. The phone system is in a state of transition, and that transition will continue to move forward in the very near term. And so that group will transition to look like what it needs to look like to serve our campus for the future. And there will be announcements in the relatively near future about the continuing work being done in that area. And then network infrastructure led by Tom Weiss is our, a lot of the cabling, wiring, our fiber plant, our outside plant, all of that sort of thing. And they do so much more than that. It's, I think, some of the ways that group has been referred to in the past as installers doesn't even give it nearly the credit it deserves for the significant work done in that area to support our network. So that is the network infrastructure and networks group. Next is where we
did
start
that other thing.
Oh, sorry. So the next area is where we start to see some more significant difference. What had previously been known as EAD is split up into two groups. And the applications and service engineering group, we're still working through the name, but something along those lines. I have asked Dean Dang to lead that on an interim basis right now, so he will direct that group for starting this past week. And what we're really going to do in that area is focus on, none of this speaks to specifically how this group will be set up, but it speaks to us having functions and services and tying them to specific individuals and then up to managers. So you can see the suite of services, the significant functions that are handled in this area, and we will map that out to current staff and future staff and ensure that it's very clear. As you will see across this whole org chart, the goal is to have it be very clear where services are provided and ensure that it makes as much sense as possible, and we create efficiencies around those directors and managers and leaders. And so this just gives an idea of what that looks like, but it doesn't speak to how the actual department will be set up. We're going to, I and Dean and Ed, transitioning out from interim leadership in that area, will continue to work through what the future of that looks like. You will see over here the Network Operations Center, and again, what we name that area or exactly what it does is still TBD. There's a lot of great work that needs to come from that area and always has come from that area. But I think at this point, we believe that embedding them into the applications and engineering group to provide tier 2, tier 3 support on some of those applications, to do things related to applications and system monitoring, a lot of the things that they are already doing today, but more embedded in that group as opposed to in the networks group, will be a positive for the future. So there's a lot of wonderful staff in that area, and we're going to figure out exactly how best to help them help all of this community and all of our users long term. The other half of the D in EAD is the other top level area, and that is software development and delivery. And I've asked Roddy Reddy to be the interim director in that area as well. And you will see this is where the green rectangles start to show up pretty significantly. And I think that's a reflection of that this campus hasn't had an opportunity to have a significant development shop the way we need to, in the way that some of our peer institutions, and certainly our aspirational peer institutions, have. Long term, we want to grow this area, and we know we need to. So we'll both be a software development shop, a group that has responsibility for some of our web platforms, RED and UIC.edu and things like that, as well as focusing more on the future needs as we modernize our IT infrastructure. So API and microservices, data, the manipulation of data, data visualization, things that aren't necessary, there is no home for on this campus today. I think we will find a home for in this area. Mobile development, lots of opportunities in that area, and something that we just don't have the resource or the time to do today. So this area, much like the applications group before it, will be organized according to service delivery and function and so on and so forth. So this, again, is not reflective of people per se, but the way that we'll look to build that in the future. And this building is starting right now, but it is not something that we are prepared to share at this moment. We're literally announcing this in the last week or so. The last group is in some ways a new group, but in some ways just a change related to the Learning Technology Solutions group moving under the Center for Teaching Excellence to provide a more direct support of that operation. And this is the client experience area. Much of it, or some parts of it, I should say, has been referred to as CSS, or Client Support Solutions, in the past. And it was built up very significantly by Elizabeth and Anthony Marino. And in transitioning the departments, Anthony Marino will lead that area. And what you see are really two pieces to this group. The client support piece, which is our service desk, tier 1, tier 2, as well as our on-site support operations, which historically have broken up into two areas, the former AITS group, and then some of the support that we've provided on campus here. And that will all be merged into one group to try and really modernize that on-site support group and be able to provide that and grow that operation for the long term. I believe there are needs on this campus that aren't being met, that can't be met by local IT. There isn't local IT in an area we can't meet via our current service offerings. So I think we're going to explore that and really see where we can be of support as a central unit in that area. And then our service desk, which is great, but ensuring that they have all the information they need to provide that frontline support to each of you and your users. And I think there's a lot of, a significant amount of opportunity in that area as well. And then the other areas, service management, which is something Anthony and others in the organization have taken on for ACCC over the previous years, making sure that that's solidified and that there are more staff in place. Many of you have heard about the Team Dynamics implementation, which is a system level implementation of ITSM software, which is project management, knowledge management, ticketing, incident response, all of the pieces of that. This is great timing in a sense to have both that system coming into play for all of us long-term, the entire campus, and create this area to ensure that we are using the model, that we're using the software and expanding what it is that we can do long-term. So that project has been ongoing for, I want to say 4 months now, and will continue into this fall as we start to move ACCC to use the software and then to offer it up to the rest of the institution and see where we can use this modern software tool to collaborate more on some of our service desk offerings and whatnot. And then the last area, which has existed but will be a part of this, marketing and client relationship, led by Crystal Ortega, who many of you may not know because she's relatively new to the organization. But that area has responsibility for marketing and also determining how we best communicate with our stakeholders, how we serve the broader community, and any number of things. So that is the functional org chart. Those are the 5 areas of the current central IT organization that report up to the Chief Technology Officer, just in the interest of knowing where the rest is. We talked earlier about learning technology solutions. The other 2 areas that do exist are ACER, the research group led by Himanshu Sharma, which will continue to report to the CIO, as well as the PPMO led by Mark Gettert, the project management and strategy area that will also continue to report up there. So I'll take a break for a second and ask if there are any questions about this, and then I have some initiatives to share with the group as well. I wasn't watching the chat. I don't know if anything came through. Oh, no. Great. Great. So let me also say with that org chart, I think there are a couple of goals here. There are something that this campus, I believe, has lacked for many years are promotional opportunities across the IT spectrum on this campus, and not just the central IT organization, in units, so on and so forth. I've heard this a million times. I've been a part of it myself over the 17 years I've been on campus. My hope is that as obviously we're in very difficult times right now, what the future of hiring and expanding looks like, I don't know. But it is also true that technology and IT will be a very important part of what we do at this institution going forward, whether it be for remote work or remote learning or on-campus learning or whatever it may be. It is going to continue to be important. So I hope in the very near term, I'm working with the 5 directors I named earlier, to determine which positions will be open, and we hope to look to give those opportunities to people who are already on campus. I know there are many highly skilled, highly motivated people who are looking to run a client support operation or are looking to hone their development skills or use their development skills as part of a proper development shop. Like, those opportunities will exist, and I will be transparent and forthcoming with those to the community. And I think we have an opportunity here to give, again, I've said opportunity 6 times, but opportunity to those inside of the university to try and fill some of these roles before we attempt to hire from the outside, which is both good financially for this institution in a very difficult time that's about to get more difficult, but also is great for those of you who have put in a lot of effort and a lot of energy into your career and are looking for that next step. So that is something that will come, in the fairly near future as soon as we're able to figure out what positions will exist. And I hope that that's exciting for many of you. And that includes some of those director roles that I noted as interim directorships. For the time being, those are all systems go, but I will invite the current holders to participate in those searches, but we will have open searches for many of those positions as we move forward. The other last thing about the org chart I wanted to say before we move forward is, as you will see in the initiatives that I'm about to talk to, I am committed to ensuring that there is open and transparent dialogue and that we are working together as a, one IT community. Cynthia mentioned IT leadership, which involves a number of people, but it does not involve everyone on this campus. But I want to ensure that there is an opportunity for everyone to have their voice heard, to communicate, to participate, to share, to help, to work on things together. I think that's really important. The central IT group, even if I can expand it a bit, is not going to grow to the sizes of some of our peer institutions. And so we need to have a good, collaborative, open working environment where we can work on a lot of these projects literally together, no matter where it is that we report. And so while you note that that org chart does not have any dotted lines, it doesn't have things crossing over this and that, I did want to keep it fairly clear and simple. We will also be putting forth cross-functional groups, which will both be internal and external to to the central IT area. And those will be well-defined areas that report up to a director that speak to any sort of cross-functional need. Our computer labs are one idea. Our DNS management and things like that. These are things that cross various areas in the organization and need to be managed. And there will be a director who has responsibility for that. But at the end of the day, I do want to include both our staff from different director areas, as well as staff from the community as stakeholders in those groups. And that will be formalized and defined so we know what those expectations are and you can share those within your unit. So there will be more opportunity to participate and work together on many of these areas. Any questions while I bring up the other piece? Great. So let me share this other thing. So the other thing I did want to share is that I have created a set of initiatives. These are not projects per se. Many of them will lead to projects. Some of them speak to things that Cynthia talked about earlier. They are all not new, but I did want to collect them in one place over the 2 months that I've been in this position and been thinking about what our future looks like, just to collect them and give both our staff and then those of you who support us and our stakeholders some idea of the types of things that we're going to be focusing on during this next fiscal year. Obviously a very strange year, but one nonetheless where we have to continue to move forward no matter what the circumstances are. So there are 4. The first is the Forward Initiative, and it really just speaks to those 3 big projects which Cynthia mentioned that are massive capital projects, to be honest with you. These are not items that will fit in our operating budget, never will, never can. They are significant. And they are that data center strategy, which we will look at in partnership with Urbana. They are network and voice strategy, moving those things forward. And then that research computing strategy. And again, that is us doing it in support of the ACER group and OVCR and others. And so there will be more information soon. I'm sure the reports themselves will be available for many to read and will speak to broadly and be transparent about the how we're moving the tech pieces of that forward, and we'll be looking for significant stakeholders and input and all sorts of things. And some of you are part of the processes, but that is that initiative, and a lot of it will depend on where the campus is able to invest in these areas. They are beyond important. I can speak to that and will. It's a big part of my job, but at the end of the day, we are reliant on the broader campus to fund some of these multi-million dollar initiatives. The second is the Focus Initiative, and this is one that is very internal to ACCC and the community more broadly. You can see that each of these are in support of campus initiatives. So the first being in support of our national impact and visibility. If we don't have modern data centers and we don't have a strong network, we can't do the kind of research computing we need, so on and so forth. The second, the Focus Initiative, is in support of Entrepreneurial University. And really it's about efficiency and clarity in service provision and modern technologies. And so we will work to eliminate duplicative services. We will look to reduce underused services. We will modernize legacy systems. One of the things I've noted in the 2 months I've been here is the number of legacy systems that are very core to the way that this university functions. And I'm sure many of you know them, and they, inhibit our ability to do some of the other things that we'd like to do to move things forward. And so we'll work hard on those legacy system conversions. Taking care of the old phone system, the Centrex phone lines, that has to end. Cynthia mentioned project intake and prioritization. Mark Getter and I have been working very closely on figuring out not only how we intake projects internally in ACCC, but from the community, how we have ITLC stakeholder input on prioritization, and how we're transparent with what projects we're working on and their importance. And Mark and his team have developed a really sophisticated matrix that we'll use to score some of these and be, again, transparent with everyone about why this is something that is being done now and this is here. We will always have limited resources, 100%. That will always be true. And that's true at some schools with a lot more money than we have. But if we have that prioritization in place, we'll at least know what we're working on, why we're working on it, and why it's important. And then also the reconsidered organization structure, which is mostly done for now. The Engage initiative is the third. That's in support of Chicago and community engagement. And this is about communication, I think, mostly. And so Crystal, who I mentioned earlier, as well as Anthony Marino in that group, will be really key in moving this area forward. So we want to streamline our internal communication. Today there's a Reach listserv. There's a team that some of you are part of there, and that extends throughout the IT organization, internal to ACCC and external. There are just too many communication mechanisms, and it's not always clear which one to use for what. And so the team will be working internally and with all of you to figure out how to streamline that. We want to enhance our stakeholder communication. There has been some great work done in terms of newsletters that we're sending out, what we put on our website, but I think we can do even more to make sure that we're reaching target audiences, that we're doing modern communication that is different for students, that is different for IT people, that is different for faculty, so on and so forth, that meets their specific needs. And that is really the goal of modern marketing communications, if you will. This one speaks more to a project. We want to replace large scale systems that are used for mass mail and today and so on and so forth. They are aging. They don't always update appropriately. And I think we as a campus at a minimum need to have a modern mailing or communication system in place so that we can reach our stakeholders. We've done that with emergencies, but we haven't moved on to completing projects like that with our listserv systems and whatnot. We also want to develop a mechanism, which we're working on right now, to resource what I've called, and I don't think this is the best name, but proof of concept or experimental projects. Today, I think, and historically, and I know this as a former stakeholder, ACCC has listened to, participated in, even funded some projects that are requested at the units, but there hasn't been a thorough process as to how to take those in. And so I want to commit some number of dollars and some number of hours every year to ensure that we have a process and we can take in projects from you and your colleges and departments and say, these are good ideas. There are 20 of them. There are 50 of them. We can't afford to do that both in time or money, but we can do some. And then bring that back to either governance groups or so on and so forth, decide which ones we're going to do and put that in place and then report on our results. And I think that becomes an important, even if it's a small amount of money, that becomes an important vessel for people to feel like the central computing unit has responsibility for the things that they want to do and can help them. And there is some mechanism to do so other than just asking and hoping. And so that will be coming up during this year. And then also I think it's important both for my staff and then for all of you as well to participate in local, state, national working groups, committees, attend conferences, whatever that means right now, and in the future, and participate on boards and talk about UIC. Something I learned from my former boss in student affairs is that a lot of an institution's reputation is about the people who work there and how they talk about it. And so if you are an expert in Splunk and you go to a conference on Splunk and you talk about being so-and-so person from the University of Illinois Chicago, where we do this, this, and this, and we serve these kind of students, that's important. There were 50 people at that Splunk conference or at that Splunk webinar who now have heard of this institution, even as an aside. And so things like that become important. I think we need to participate in those as a community and certainly as a staff in Central IT. The last initiative is in support very clearly of student experience and success. So much of what we do in IT broadly is in indirect support of the university's mission. Like we set up systems and we create infrastructure that allows many of these things to happen. But this is an area where I think we have an opportunity and have done it broadly in many areas, but we don't always measure it. We don't always talk about it, and I think we need to do better. Directly support student success through jobs, internships, co-op programs, tracking that job placement. I know from my time in student affairs, and Vishaka, who's on the line here, is the assistant director in that area for development and such. And she could speak to a really successful student employment program where lots of students at low hourly rates, especially for software developers, are working for us, are creating things that are in use in departments, and also getting just tremendous job experience, but with the flexibility of a student job. And that's something that we have an opportunity that both helps us, but also helps those students, and many go on to just great careers. And so I know that is happening across the institution. It's happened in ACCC, but I think we can do more of it, and we can track it, and we can tell that story about how successfully we, as an institution who cares about this sort of thing, are putting these students in a position to succeed. And so that is something that we will lead centrally, and then hope that many units follow suit as well. So those are the initiatives, and I guess I would also take questions on these if there are any. I'm trying to look at the chat again. Anything out there? Comments, questions?
Jason,
Please, yeah. Hey.
Bala here.
Yep.
Thanks for the sharing the org chart and the initiatives. I know it's been just 2 months, but if you have to kind of say, these are the top 5 hurdles that I've noticed in this short duration of being in this role, what would be those top 5 hurdles that you see impacting this new call?
Yeah.
That could
No, I hear you.
yeah.
I think
it could impact your initiative, moving forward with the initiatives or something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've said throughout the interview process, and I've said to others now, that I believe in transparency, and so I'm going to speak off the cuff here and probably say something that's not totally appropriate, but that's okay. I think it's important. I think our legacy systems are problematic. I really do, and I know there's a million reasons how we got to this point. Many of them were very innovative some number of years ago, but today I think they hold us back in some areas, and it's just some of them work, and they work well, and they also do things that some of the vendor supported software that we could buy to replace it don't do. And so it becomes really difficult to make that transition. But I think we absolutely have to. We cannot be reliant on, as we bring in more talent to the university and do things differently or try to integrate with outside partners, some of this stuff becomes pretty problematic. I also think we're very lucky, to be totally honest with you, that things run as smoothly as they do. There are a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong when you're running on systems that are supported by a single individual with a tremendous amount of knowledge, but non-transferable knowledge, for lack of a better way. So to me, that's number one. And I think, this year, which is going to be so strange in many ways, is a good opportunity to just hunker down and handle some of that while we look towards, funding in the future and so on and so forth. I think funding is another, not maybe in sheer amount. I haven't had necessarily the time to spend with the budget what we have centrally. It's too low. I think everyone knows that. But how much and exactly how, I don't know. That takes more time to figure out. But I do think the funding process, the rate and funding, and many of you have been in governance with me for years know this, and my opinion hasn't changed. It is overly complicated, unnecessarily so. And I think it puts a burden on IT broadly that doesn't exist in other parts of the institution. I think we need to fix that. On some positives, I think there are such good staff members in ACCC, people who I did not know, to be honest, I had never met, who just have a wealth of knowledge and are doing really amazing work. And I would also say I've been on campus for 17 years and spent the last 10 directing an IT department, had a lot of interaction with ACCC, a lot. And I did not know the scope of things that we have responsibility for. It is immense. And so I think in some ways we have to simplify that. In some ways we have to share the wealth. We have to figure out what's important, but we need to focus as well. So I think being able to do that, to focus on both from a cost perspective and just an efficiency. If someone's working on 12 things and they're the service owner for all of them, it is very difficult to be really great as a service owner for any one of those things, or to provide the kind of support we want to do training, to participate in these committees and cross-functional groups. Like, that is just impossible. So the time needed. And then I also think, you know, I don't think this is necessarily a big, hello, little person. Paula, don't turn off your camera. I think the systems, in this case, RT, which we've used for incident and service request, and the project management software Clarity, like, I don't think they help the cause. And so I think in a future state where we have a single system that is handling that, we're using a single system in other areas, we are, we have knowledge management that is broad and shareable and units can participate in. We have little remnants of that here and there across this university. We've had initiatives that, you know, would have gotten us there. I think it's really important, and I think it's a big opportunity, and not to put too much pressure on Anthony and that team, but I think it's a massive opportunity to say, like, is there a future state where we share a tier 1 help desk? Yeah, I think there can be. Like, there's no reason. Centralization is not a word that will come out of my mouth. I don't think it's good. Like, I think each of you and your units serving those specific needs is very important. And I think it's the only way to do this work at a university of this size. But I also think sharing things when it comes to that, when we're talking about password resets and we're talking about like baseline software finding or how things work, whatever, like, we should work together better those ways. So I think the lack of good software in the past, as well as just the general siloization of the university, is problematic. I don't know if that's 4 or 5, but that's all I got for right now. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Oh, Tracy, question very specific to reopen a campus. I don't know if it's appropriate for this meeting. We'll find out. Is there any way to connect the UIC Wellness Check verification system to UIC ID cards that are banned as students building entry? Yes, is the answer, and it has been done, but only in specific areas. But yes is the answer to that question, Tracy. And you can reach out to me, and actually Sandeep Dath, not to put him on the spot, I don't know if he's here, has played a very significant role. But yeah, it's done in College of Medicine. I think it's done in pharmacy, maybe dentistry, a few other places. So very doable. Anything else from the community? I think, you know, broadly, I want to say, like, the future of the IT community, how we communicate, how we participate in things, a group of developers, a group of sysadmins, that sort of thing, is going to be really important. It's not only about governance and the directors of IT units talking about initiatives, that's super important, but getting security professionals, again, getting developers, getting sysadmins, getting help desk managers to talk to each other about the things we're doing, to share best practices, to do that. I want to make that as easy as possible and really encourage it. And so I will, you know, continue to promote the IT community. I think we're going to rethink it. We're going to take a look at what reach has been historically, how all of this works. These are things that we'll do over the next 6 months or so to figure out what the best path forward is. And I think it'll all be in steps. And we will continue to say that, you know, this group here, and there's, I don't know, 400 or so people who probably can lay a claim to being some part of the IT community. Us here, the hospital IS team, ACCC, like all of it, like, we have to work together on each of these things, and we absolutely will. What that looks like, I don't know the answer to today, but I did want to get out in front of people as early as possible, share some of this, let people know, be transparent about what it is we're doing and where we're headed, and know that there will be opportunities, and I will be calling on each and every one of you at different points along the way to participate. Oh, there might be one more question, but that was such a good closing. It wasn't. Not sure if this was discussed. Is the current IT ticketing system part of the change? Yes, but that had been decided in the past. The system level is working toward implementation of Team Dynamics. You can look it up at Ensign and X. It's a very good system that does a full suite of ITSM things: knowledge management, service management, incidents, projects, so on and so forth. Communication, any plan to have a UIC, all teams? Yes, there has been, this is Charity's question in the chat. There's been some small scale work in that area that started. Jolene Crean actually has led some of that and working. I've talked to my colleague Scott in Urbana, and we know we need to. How we do it is still, best question. Teams is not ideal for that. I participate in some Urbana teams, and it's like a separate area. So we kind of have to figure out what to do, but there's some technical answers that could make that look different long term. I mean, there's all sorts of big technical projects. Do we need 4 active directories? I don't know. That's not a question I can answer today, but it's a question. I think we should ask it. So yeah, what else do we have? Oh, Anthony posted a thing. Team dynamics, everybody loves it. Bluestem going to be updated? Oh yes. I didn't read the rest of that question, but yes, is the answer. It'll be updated in all the ways it needs to be, none of which I understand, to be totally honest with you, but it needs to change. Anything else? We're at 2:57, so this worked out really well. I appreciate everyone's time. There will be more of this. I will be, expect for Anthony and Crystal as well to reach out at some point with maybe some surveys to get your opinions on communication. I think that's the bedrock piece. Like, I think we're going to have to figure out some of the streamlined communication, even if the answer is simple, before we do a lot of the rest of it. Like, it's all ongoing, but we need to get in places where we start talking. And so even if we don't have answers, and even if we're not changing everything tomorrow, at least we start those conversations and create those communities and really make the IT community something that is significant and helps change this institution. So I will also, I didn't mention it, have open office hours. So I'll put those out for everyone. So you can just use Microsoft Bookings if you really want to talk about something. I'm going to do that forever. That is the goal. And I'll put those out for everyone. So I'd love to talk to anyone who'd like to. And then, be making the rounds to various groups and talking and moving things forward. So I really appreciate your time. Reach out anytime. I'm on Teams or on email. And thank you everyone for your time today.